Federal investigators believe PG&E's shoddy maintenance and PUC's lax oversight contributed to the San Bruno pipeline blast.
The corruption which led to these actions and the millions of dollars in fines and penalties against PG&E is not shocking. It is unconscionable.
I believe there is criminal behavior, and hopefully the U.S. Attorney and the Attorney General will see it in that light and file charges.
Hill has also been a loud critic of Peevey's many trips abroad.
On that performance. Second, the bill improves PUC transparency. It adds additional reporting of conversations between utilities and PUC decision makers, including requiring commissioners to report and expanding reporting into all PUC cases, not just rate cases. These requirements are necessary as emails the City of San Bruno obtained in January show how insidious influence from utilities and the financial communities have been. Third, the bill will require the PUC to adhere to the same judicial review rules as do other boards and commissions. In the City of San Bruno's attempts to get public records, the PUC continued to maintain that, unlike other commissions, the city could not enforce the PUC's Public Records Act violations in Superior Court, but needed to go to the appellate or the California Supreme Court. The public shouldn't need a legal department to get a public record. The bill makes other reforms, including expanding the PUC's reporting requirements, requiring recusal of commissioners for bias, adding additional ethics requirements for PUC judges, and imposing penalties for violations of reporting requirements. I should add that none of the progress that is coming today and in the next year would be possible if not for the insistence of Mayor Ruane and the City of San Bruno to hold the PUC accountable. The city's work has dragged the PUC's demons out into the light and has laid the groundwork for the governor and the legislature and the PUC's new president to exorcise those demons. Thank you for being here this morning, and we look forward to a wonderful, wonderful new year at the PUC.
Do you anticipate?
Can you take questions?
Do you anticipate criminal charges, and do you think that there should be criminal charges against CPUC officials and former CPUC officials?
Well, the question was, do we anticipate criminal charges going forward? I've always said that what happened was, in fact, criminal. I stood on the Hill that night and thought, what a horrible accident, and then found out that it was not an accident. This could have been prevented. So I'll let the U.S. Attorney and our own Kamala Harris decide on what those penalties should be, but nothing surprises me going forward.
Senator Hill, give me your thoughts on Mr. Peevey leaving in general terms, and also specifically on the fact that Mr. Peevey has logged hundreds of thousands of miles of travel during his tenure as president of CPUC. Do you think that was appropriate?
Well, first of all, I'm really pleased that the leadership at the PUC will be changing at the end of the month. It's important, it's critical that we make that change, and I think it's certainly fitting, because when you look at the resolution that we were going to introduce on December 1st, prior to the notice that Mr. Peevey was resigning or was not seeking reappointment, it outlined all of the egregious behavior of Mr. Peevey over the last 8 years. One of the behavior that was so obvious was the $230,000 of free travel by nonprofits in California. And those nonprofits were funded by the same very industries that Mr. Peevey was regulating. That's the part, if you wanted to, or if I wanted to sit down with Mr. Peevey, as the City of San Bruno had a challenge to sit down with him, it's almost impossible for anyone to. But on those junkets, on those trips, the PUC, the commissioners are there, and the utilities representatives are along for the ride, sitting, networking, drinking, partying, and having a great time with them during that opportunity. So that's one of the issues. And if you look at, in response to the question on criminal activity or behavior, if you look at some of the actions that were, at this point, I guess you'd say hearsay based on the emails that we read, the behavior of Mr. Peevey in trading campaign funds for government favors, which is what was implied in those emails, is no different than the charges that I saw against Senator Leland Yee for trading campaign contributions for government favors. And there's no difference. So I believe there is criminal behavior, and hopefully the U.S. Attorney and the Attorney General will see it in that light and file charges.
Is there anyone that you'd like to see appointed as the next commissioner, or any kind of character?
I have outlined and sent a letter to the governor that talks about the criteria that we're looking for in a new commissioner. Someone that probably most responsibly will, as Mayor Ruane said, put the P back into Public Utilities Commission. And a person who is transparent, and it outlines a lot of the criteria, not naming one person. That's the governor's responsibility, and he's done a very good job in his appointments so far over the last 4 years, and I expect him to make a good, thoughtful appointment in this regard too.
Governor Brown has been silent during the disclosures of the solicitation of campaign donations at the same time of discussion of rate cases and all the discussion of kind of too cozy relationships with the people that the CPUC is regulating. Do you think that the governor should be doing more speaking out or expressing himself on this issue?
Well, I can't second guess the governor in his long relationship with Mr. Peevey and others that have been involved in this. I would have hoped he would have acted sooner and could have, because of the challenges that I know the city of San Bruno has been facing for the past 4 years, and the revelations that have been discovered by the media and by others and by San Bruno and their hard work, it should and it certainly made it clear that there were problems with the leadership of the PUC. We looked at it, in fact, when we came to the first meeting in January, 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago to the month, would be next month, was when we saw after the explosion what really led up to that explosion, and it was the culture of complacency within this building. And that culture has not changed appreciably over the 4 years, and it should have been noticed earlier by a lot of individuals in the state.
There have been whistleblowers at PG&E who've spoken out about the problem of the gas line not being properly serviced, and also whistleblowers have spoken out at PG&E and other utilities. What kind of protection should be provided for whistleblowers at these utilities, and do you think there should be criminal penalties against the employer, against the utilities, if they retaliate against whistleblowers who are trying to protect our health and safety?
Well, I mean, I certainly think that whistleblowers should be protected. I'm not familiar with the specific cases if there have been whistleblowers who have come out against PG&E or the PUC, but certainly there should be protection. I know in the PUC there is protection, and I don't believe there is protection today at the utilities, and that's something that we should look at seriously. Well, it's been an interesting morning listening to the public comments related to Mr. Peevey's departure. That was surprising. It almost seemed so choreographed. Everyone had a certain amount to say, and everyone kind of said not the same thing, but on different subjects. And so I was taking notes and just looking at, there was so much credit paid for his renewable energy and his greenhouse gas and the RPS standards that really the CPUC had nothing to do with establishing those. Those were legislatively directed and mandated. The 33% RPS requirement by 2020, that was done by the legislature, and they had to implement it here, and without anything further, that was their responsibility. The other part that, when they talk about the loading order and energy efficiency and demand response, which is one of the important things that is in the order, but California has failed in that regard. And in fact, I just had a note here, Commissioner Farron, the commissioner before he retired, he said on January 16th, California has lost pace with the best in terms of energy efficiency and demand response. Also, Commissioner Picker, who just 2 months ago said he's deeply troubled by our energy efficiency programs, and I still cannot, in my own mind, figure out how we got into this mess. So there's been a lot said. When you look at who has made the comments today, the part that I find interesting is most of these people who made the comments have some connection to Mr. Peevey in that they had a relationship with him. He's put them in positions that they have. Sunny McPeak she spoke, she's head of the California Emerging Technology Fund. Well, she received, I think, a salary of over $300,000 a year, put there by Mr. Peevey. The fellow Ralph Kavanaugh, the last speaker, who says his history in energy efficiency and renewable energy, which I just mentioned is not really factual. He is on the board of the California Clean Energy Fund and the UC Davis Energy Efficiency Center. Both of those created by Peevey, and he's on the board for that as well. So it looks as if, and the Chino Hills decision, that the attorney was there praising the Chino Hills decision, that will cost ratepayers across California, the entire state, about $800 million to protect the view of about 3 miles in Chino Hills. So these decisions all seem to be coming from, are made on behalf of the utilities, because we're all paying for that. So every decision that we've seen, every avenue that we've seen has just cost the ratepayers money. They're the ones that have won. And I thought the most interesting, the first speaker I heard was from the financial market community. Of course the financial market is pleased with Mr. Peevey's decisions, because obviously it's the utility rates that we're all paying that are the highest in the country that they make the billions of dollars on. So the financial market certainly would support what he's doing all along the way.
Senator, what's your overall characterization of what we just watched, what we just heard?
Well, as I say, it was a choreographed. I don't want to say it was a circus. It was more a someone put this together and organized it in a way to, I believe, show a favorable side to Mr. Peevey's actions over the last 8 years, and I think that there's another side to that story, and hopefully I just shared a little bit of it. But I think if you look deep and go deeper into the discussion, you see the facts of the situation, and it's not as clear as what people have been portraying today.
Having said that, what does he face after this love fest, as some have called it, is over? What's he facing in realistic terms legally down the road?
Well, I'm hoping that the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney will, in their investigation, uncover what we seem to see in circumstantial evidence and hearsay, a basis for some criminal indictments, because it seems clear to me that the actions have been criminal. As I mentioned earlier today, when you look at Senator Leland Yee, former senator, he traded campaign contributions for government favors, and that's what he's indicted for. What some of those emails, I don't know if they're true or not, but what they imply is that Mr. Peevey was trading campaign contributions for government favors. Only those government favors we're talking about were in the $20 million range, rather than as Senator Yee's was a proclamation or a resolution that he traded $5,000 in campaign funds. I'm not saying that his was any better, but this is a very substantial claim that was made by those emails.
What is Mr. Peevey's legacy?
Well, sadly, I think his legacy is going to be what the last speaker, I think, before I came out here, his comments were, and it's one of corrupt behavior, actions that are not in the public interest, and have not been. And certainly, when you look at the relationship between the utilities and the PUC, that cozy relationship, what we're seeing is one of corruption, basically. And when the utilities are running this regulatory body, and that's what they've been doing, the ratepayers suffer, safety, as we know, has suffered, and so we're spending a lot more money, getting a lot less, and we're not safe over it.
Let me ask you about your legislation. You were introducing that today.
Oh, sorry.
I'll let you guys go.
In a nutshell,
sure.
what does
In a
it
nutshell,
say?
what we're trying to do is change the structure of the PUC so that we don't have a dictator in place in the future. One person, as Michael Peevey has, and he's taken over right now he makes every decision, selects every person, the executive director, the attorney, the administrative law judges are all selected by him. He determines who gets what cases. That will change in the legislation so that all commissioners have a say in that. Also, we're going to add transparency rules. Right now, in a Public Records Act request, you have to go to the Supreme Court or the appellate court to get the public records, and that's wrong. We should make it easy for the public to get get those records, and they should go to Superior Court, as everyone else has to, and every other agency has to. So it's transparency as well as regulatory changes that are involved to try and make this a better working system and a regulatory body that we can all trust. I don't believe there's anything, there's no benevolent dictator, and I think we've seen that here.
You mentioned a number of the speakers, and I just wanted to pull out one and get your thoughts. If you don't have notes or about it, that's okay.
Sure.
But former legislator Gwen Moore had a lot of.
Well, I think they were talking about the diversity in the that has been brought to the PUC and the regulatory body over the last number of years in PVs. I've not looked into that, but if certainly we need to have the diversity that we're seeing today, more of today, and I believe that it's been an important contribution, and if the PUC has gone in that direction, I think that's a great thing.
So, just summing it up again, that all those speakers, about 30 speakers, praised Mr. Peevey for.
And we have the memo.
Yeah.
That went out to orchestrate. So
Okay. Leadership in renewables, leadership in diversity, leadership
in energy efficiency. Yes, and most of those areas, as I mentioned, in terms of renewable energy, that was mandated by the legislature and the governor, and even the former Republican governor has been pushing that as well and been a strong supporter of that. So renewable energy has been mandated, not done by the PUC. Energy efficiency, as I mentioned, one former commissioner and one current commissioner, we say we failed. How do we get into this mess? So, and then you look at the audits that we've seen recently, the audits that have come about over the PUC that have shown the failure of this organization to manage money, to understand what's going on, and to do the job that's necessary. So it's very comprehensive when you look at the failures that under Mr. Peevey's leadership that have come about, and that's why this orchestrated show today was, I believe, something that was disingenuous because the facts don't support it.
So Mr. Peevey's role in all those issues is?
Well, he's failed in terms of management, because the audits have shown that we've had a failed system, and whether it's managing the dollars, the ratepayer dollars, it's also in the failure to manage the organization, manage the safety of the utilities. That has been a failure all along, all through any audit that's shown that has proved that. It's the first thing. The second thing that we've seen is the failure in renewable energy. That was done not by the PUC but by the legislature. And energy efficiency is something that what we've found is not been as part of the is handled as properly as it should have been.
Do you think you can have real energy efficiency with PG&E, private utilities, who make more money by selling more electricity?
It's questionable. It's doubtful. And they don't want to lose it. It's kind of like the cigarette manufacturers trying to sell it in e-cigarettes. They'll make it one way or the other.